After the ancestor profile, we're going to move into the timeline pages. The timeline pages, there's 4 of them, and I think that they're incredibly helpful. So that's why I've included them in every single chapter. The timeline pages can help you figure out if there's holes in your research. It can help you understand the story of your ancestors a little bit better. And they're very helpful for anybody who's reading your book who isn't familiar with these people at all. The one thing about the timeline page is that, of course, you're just not going to need as long of a timeline or as short of a timeline for each ancestor. So it's going to be up to you to figure out how many of these timeline pages you need. The other thing is that I like to do a timeline page where uh, there's a line for each year. However, you might have events that happen, multiple events in one year that you want to record, or you might have large gaps. For example, they're born and then nothing really happens until they go off to fight the war 18 years later. And maybe you don't want to fill up a page with blank spaces like that. It's completely up to you how you want to use this page. But I'm just going to show you how to add information to the page. And then, of course, you can do what you want to in your own book. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Just like I did with the index, I'm actually going to go ahead and just copy one of these text boxes to make it a little bit easier. However, again, if you wanted to just use the add a text box function, you could do that right there. I'm not going to do that. Um, or you could, you know, however it is that you want to fill these in, but I'm just going to grab and copy. So here, age, I'm going to copy that and paste it. And it's going to line up again using those little handy lines. And I'm going to say 0. Like I said, I like to have a page for every, or a year for every single line. So I did not pre-fill in the ages because I want people to use this page however they want to. Um, that is what I like to do. So let me just fill in all of those years really quickly. All right, so I've added all of my numbers. Thank you for being patient. I'm sure you probably noticed me fussing with the placement of the numbers and getting everything as centered as I would like. It's hard when they go from single digits to multiple digits. Anyway, now that I have the numbers in, I've only done the first 2 pages. This person actually lived longer than 37, but I didn't want to tax your patience too much. So going back up, so the next column says year and location. Now, you're not going to have an event probably for every single year of your ancestor's life. I mean, you might, um, but I have found that in my research, I usually don't. And childhood is especially empty. So I'm actually going to skip past this first page, not because I don't have anything to put down, but because I think that this page, which captures ages 19 through 37, we're just going to have a lot more to add in. So I'm going to go ahead and start with age 22 and add the year and the location of an event. And in this case, let's see, I've copied that text. I'm going to put this right here. And you can see it, I don't know if you noticed that it sort of snapped into these little like grids. So that's perfectly lined up with both the number 22 and the year and location. And that is the year that he enlisted in the Army. So that is in 1917 in Laramie, Wyoming. Now I could go back. Of course, I do know which year they were each of the, or he was each of these ages. So I could put 1916, 1915, 1914, and I might. It sort of depends on how I'm feeling, but honestly, I don't mind a timeline that's mostly blank with the occasional year and location tossed in. Anyway, okay, let me go ahead and I could either just keep typing, add in a lot of spaces like that, but I'm actually going to just copy this and it's going to let me center it again in the same way. And I'll say enlistment in the Army. And then at age 23, let's see, I'm going to copy this year and location again. And so we're going to get on to this next line. This is in 1918. Oh, left the Y. And this happened in the Argonne. Not sure how I'm pronouncing that. Argonne forest in France. And the event is that he was wounded. So we'll put that, and then year and location when he was 24. Let's go ahead and add another event in. This is 1919. I actually don't have a location for this event. I think I have it somewhere in my research, but I'm not going to make you guys wait while I look. So we're just going to leave that blank for a second. And this is when he received his honorable discharge from the Army. Okay, let's see what other things do I have? At age 25. By the way, I'm transcribing this from a list that I've made from my own research. Again, this is all just how you put things into your pages. Actually finding the things is going to depend on your research skills and what you know about each of your ancestors. Okay, so in 1920 in Seattle, Washington, I know how to spell that. The event is that he's employed on USS Ladonia, which I believe I know from the 1920 census. Then we're going to skip a few years. I'm going to skip down to 29. I'm gonna paste my little year and location. Let's see, get that lined up. And in 1929, in 1920, or sorry, at age 29 in 1924, he is in Ogden, Utah. And he is, let's see, let me just copy this. Let's drag this over. I'm using it for the text box. He is married to Ruby May Lutz. Okay. And then if we skip down to age 35, I'm going to copy and paste just so I have this little text box. And at age 35, we find him in the 1930 census. He is living in Carter, Wyoming. And I'm just going to add some details from the census. And the details are that he was living with Ruby and 2 stepchildren. Okay. And I don't have anything that happened to him at 36 or 37. Let's zoom out. And you can see this timeline page filled in. Now, again, I could come in and I could add the years because I know, mathematically I could add the years in, even though I don't know the locations or events. I could fill in empty space by dragging in images. For example, in my uploads, this photo is a photo that I actually took from his employment papers on the USS Ladonia. So I know that, this is a picture of him at age 25. So if I wanted to, I could, add little things like that in. I don't usually, but that is for you to decide. It is your book to make look however you want it to. Anyway, that's the timeline page. Now, let's say he had died at age 37, then I wouldn't need these timeline pages and I could use this trash can symbol to delete the page. Just remember, if we go back to our little grid thing, we always want to delete pages in pairs because when this is printed, you're going to need this binding strip to always be in the middle, this colored strip. So if I deleted this page, I'd want to make sure and delete another page or the page that was facing it as well. So I would need to delete both of these timeline pages. In this person's case, he lived beyond 37. I'm not going to delete those pages right now. I'm just not going to fill them in because I don't want you to have to wait for me. But that is how you fill in the timeline.